So I got quite a fun package this week. This is a package from Ferris Wheel Press, which is a pen and ink company based in Canada. And they run a program called the Jubilee Program, which is their Creative Ambassador program. And so it is for artists and content creator artists. And I had applied and I got a spot. And so once a quarter, they send you supplies to test out from their brand and create content with. And I decided that I am going to open it and swatch them for a video because this is the first time I am seeing them in person. I work with a paint shop. I'm not super new to this whole working with a brand sort of thing. But I am so excited to play around with their products. So, included on the box were Morningside Mint, which is this lovely green color. And their packaging is stunning. Algonquin Maple, which is named after a park in Canada. And Writing Desk, which is a collaboration with a bookstore in Toronto, like a notebook and stationery shop. So first up, I'm going to swatch Morningside Mint, which is this lovely green. I love that it comes in this container that opens in a little bag. So these are their 85ml containers. I'm quite happy that it has a flat base, otherwise it would be quite difficult to use. The other thing I absolutely love is the fact that the corners on the cap make it easy to turn. Round caps can sometimes be really hard if you've got fine motor issues, like I do, and the fact that the cap isn't round means that I actually can get it off by myself. I sort of swatched how I felt like. I wasn't really sure how I wanted to swatch these. I swatch my paints in one way. I knew that wasn't going to work here, so I decided to go in with this pen that's actually a brush tip and just do a single coat, and then go in with my glass dip pen. This glass pen is my absolute favorite. I was looking for a glass pen for ages, and unlike most glass pens on the market, it has a fountain pen barrel, and you can actually switch it out with a fountain pen tip. And because it's a fountain pen barrel, it means I can hold on to it, because most glass pens have that spiral body, and if you've got fine motor grippy issues, that spiral body can be either hard to hold on to or really annoying to hold on to. For me, it's the latter, where I just can't stand it. So when I was able to find one of these, I was so happy, and I do enjoy how it writes. I decided to go back in and do just a very light coat, and then darken up about a third of my swatch and show just what it looks like with 2 coats of the color. I think it's important to show what a darker swatch looks like, because in a piece you might decide that you want to do 2 coats of something, or you might need a darker color, and so I just like to include that in my swatch. I do the same thing in watercolor swatches. Couldn't believe how easy it was to get the caps back on, which for inks is super important, because you don't want your ink to dry out and you don't want your ink to spill. Made sure that I tightened the lid really well before putting it away. The last thing I wanted was for these brand new inks to spill or to dry out. And I love the designs of these boxes for the round bottles. The artwork on them is stunning. Next up, we have Algonquin Maple, which is named after a park here in Ontario. Same with the green. Great packaging. By this point, I was pretty confident that I liked how my green swatch had dried. I did give it time to dry before I went and did the red swatch, just so that I could see that I liked how it looked. And so I decided to do the exact same thing again. We went in with the brush pen. Such a stunning red. I'm very much a red lipstick person, so red inks and red paints are totally up my alley. I'm still learning how to write with this glass pen, and that definitely comes out in this A. It's a bit wonky compared to my normal cursive or brush pen lettering. That being said, these inks were not at fault. This was a me. This was not an inks issue. This was a user error. I could not get over at this point how red this red was. It reminded me of like an Alizarian crimson, cadmium red, in the fact that it's sort of an essential color. It didn't darken up as much as the green did. That being said, I was really glad that I did a second layer so that I knew that, especially because in later pieces I did use it really diluted and then had darker sections, and you could definitely tell like lighter from darker. At this point, I decided I was going to end up switching my paintbrush, because I do have paintbrushes in my collection that are purely dedicated to shimmery or glittery watercolors, and because Writing Desk does have a shimmer to it, I decided that I didn't want to contaminate any of my stuff that was matte. And after I swatched it, I was very glad that I did it, because it was definitely on the sparkly side. And I just try to keep everything as separate as I can. The packaging for this one is different than the previous two. This is their sort of medium-sized bottle. They do, I think, a 20 ml, a 35 ml, and an 85 ml. This was also the first bottle where the little rubber cap didn't stay in the lid. This is also the only ink that has since ended up in a fountain pen. Technically, the shimmer inks aren't supposed to end up in fountain pens, but it looks really pretty, and it's not in a super expensive pen, and I just wanted to test it out. So there will at some point be an update on that. I also realized I had forgotten to shake it, which is an important step in just making sure all that glitter pigment gets mixed back in. Writing Desk definitely had the most drastic color change from what it looked like one coat versus two coats. Like, you can see at the top edge what it looked like versus how it will look shortly. Yeah, as soon as like it goes on thick, it's very dark, versus what it looks like brushed out, versus the other two where they weren't as impressive as a shift, 1 to 2 coats. It was definitely my favorite ink to write with, which is why it's ended up in a pen. I think it looks super cool. So I struggle to spell writing. And when I clean it, you can see how green the water goes, which is an indication of what's about to happen. I was not prepared. I'd seen the swatches online. I knew that in a darker coating, it looked significantly more green. I was not prepared for how it looked with 2 coats. It is so green in comparison to how it looks with 1. And I'm trying to make sure that I've got little edges, because even though these are just swatch cards, they have to be perfect. So also at this point I realized that ink's a lot harder to get out of brushes than watercolor is, and that maybe this little brush is now just sacrificed to ink. So at this point, writing desk, the 2 coats was still wet, but if I own more than 2 pens, Algonquin Maple would definitely be going in a pen. I don't think I would put Morningside Mint in a pen just because of how light it is, but I have enjoyed just playing around with it since this point. Currently, in my 2 pens, I have just a plain black for day-to-day writing and writing desk. I've basically decided to sacrifice one of my pens to just be sparkly for forever, and one of my pens to be matte. Though once my black pen is out of ink, I think Algonquin Maple will probably go in it because I quite like the color. So, I hope you enjoyed this opening of the first Ferris Wheel Press package from the Jubilee program I've received. It was quite a lot of fun to open and swatch. I can't wait to see what I create this quarter with these fun colors.